Hey Procraftinators, welcome to my channel. Today I'm participating in a fall colors video hop. It's all about our favorite fall colors. To be honest, fall weather really isn't my favorite. I hate the cold, but I do think the trees are pretty this time of year. I just wish it didn't have to start getting cold out. The cold weather really wreaks havoc on my aching body. I'm sure there are some of you out there that can relate. Anyways, the design of my card was partly inspired by a video I saw on Jennifer McGuire's channel a few weeks ago where she did some beaded slider cards. I wanted some falling leaves on my cards, and the design was perfect. I'm changing up how she did it slightly, so stay tuned to find out how. First, I'm starting off with ink blending on my card front panel. I used distress oxides in gathered twigs, aged mahogany, rusty hinge, carved pumpkin, and squeezed lemonade. I left the ink blending in, but super sped it up, as I wanted you to see the colors I used and how they blended together. I'd love to hear what your favorite fall colors are in the comments below. For my ink blending, I go back and forth between the two colors next to each other to get a smooth blend. I know some people will go across their card panel and then go back the other way. However, I'm super crazy about cross-contamination of colors on my ink blending tools. I clean them really well in between colors, though I cut that out of the video. So I find going back and forth between two colors at one time to be more time efficient for the way that I prefer to ink blend. Later in the video you will see that I cut a large leaf out of this panel, which is from Tonic Craft Kit number 12, which is no longer available for purchase. Sorry about that, but I prefer to use what I have on hand. I didn't have much in the way of fall themed stamps and dies, as I honestly don't create much fall cards or projects. Here I'm just spraying some water, and I will splatter some in a little bit too with my Nuvo Mister bottle, and then I'm going to set it aside to dry. Next I'm ink blending Distress Oxides in Candied Apple, Mowed Lawn, Carved Pumpkin, and Squeezed Lemonade onto this strip of paper. This will be my falling leaves on my card. This will make sense later in the video if it didn't make sense from the pictures in the intro. I used the tiny leaves dies from the Tonic Craft Kit number 12 to cut my leaves from this ink blended strip. I blended the colors in a random pattern to get various random multicolored leaves. It looks like a hot mess now, but the leaves turned out exactly how I wanted to. This is a similar technique that I use to make galaxy backgrounds, except I'm using fall colors and not going over most of it with black soot, obviously. You will see towards the end that I try to smooth out the blend by going over it with my blending brush. At this point, my brush was mostly clean. It didn't help a whole lot, and honestly didn't really matter much in the end that my blend wasn't perfect. I also sprayed this with water as well. I cut a large leaf out of the card base, which is Neenah Classic Crest 110 pound. I cut the same leaf out of my card front panel. The leaf is cut out of the same place in both the card base and the card panel. I also have the next size down leaf cut out of a piece of Bristol smooth paper, in which I stamped the autumn scene from the Brutus Monroe Autumn Greetings stamp set, which was part of the Stamptember 2019 collaboration. So unfortunately this set is no longer available either, but I recently received it and I was so excited to use it, and like I mentioned earlier, I don't have many fall themed craft items. I colored the image with my Arteza Real Brush pens off camera. I'm not a pro at coloring, and I knew this video would be pushing the time limit as it was. I didn't want my falling leaves to totally cover my hard work of coloring the image, so I decided that I wanted the image to be on the inside of the card but show through to the front of the card, which is why I cut the window in the front of the card. So I used the window as a guide to glue the ink blended leaf and colored image to the inside of my card. I also did the beaded falling leaves off camera too. My hands shake and I have a trimmer in one hand, so it was kind of a hot mess for me to bead these tiny beads on the fishing line. I will probably forever find beads in my craft room. In order to get the paper leaves onto the fishing line, I sandwiched a small bead or two in between the leaf and then threaded them on the fishing line. I had ran the ink blended paper through my Xyron before die cutting it, so they all had double-sided adhesive on them already, which helped. After sandwiching the bead and making sure it was secure, I did take my anti-static powder tool and tap it on the exposed edges to make sure the adhesive didn't stick to the fishing line and cause it not to slide smoothly. Again, Jennifer McGuire has a great video on how to do this beaded slider technique. After attaching the strings with score tape to my card, I covered the back of my card panel with foam tape. Make sure you put the foam tape underneath the beaded strings as stoppers for your beads, so they don't go behind the card. I almost forgot on a couple strings and had to go back before I adhered the card together. Before I adhered the card front to the card base, I decided to place a piece of acetate between the two layers. It may not have been necessary, but I did this because the falling leaves could spin freely without it, and I didn't want them to turn in such a way that they might get smashed when someone was shutting the card. This way they couldn't spin and only stay parallel with the acetate, and you can still see through to the colored image inside. By the way, I saved my Cricut mat covers for a cheap acetate alternative for things like this. Once I applied the acetate, I applied liquid glue to the back of the acetate and to the remaining exposed foam tape. I did this so I would be able to move the card panel around a bit in order to line the leaf cutout on the card panel up with the leaf cutout on the card base. After getting the card panel attached to the card base, I tested the bead shaker, and there were a few places sticking, so I applied my powder tool until everything was sliding fairly smoothly. After that, I went to my Cricut and got to working on some sentiments. Life has been a bit crazy the last few weeks, and this hop and my 8th wedding anniversary snuck up on me. So, this card ended up doing double duty. I was married in the fall, so it works, right? So my husband got a fall-themed wedding anniversary card. It's not something I would normally make him, but he got something a little different this year. In all fairness, I made him an anniversary card to give me last week. Hopefully that video will be going up soon. I hope you enjoyed this video, and please go check out the other videos in the hop. The next stop will be linked in the video description below. Have a great day.